What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are diving into a couple of mind-blowing stories packed with mystery, absolute betrayal, and some of the craziest twists you will ever hear. Trust me, you'll want to stay until the very end for this. But before we jump into our main story, let's talk about a chilling case that completely took over the headlines last week in Algeria. It's a story that brought back terrifying memories of history's worst serial killers. A woman has emerged, now known as the serial killer of Mascara. This woman lived in the village of Sig in the Mascara province west of the Algerian capital, and her name is Kyra Amar. This woman committed disasters and calamities that are hard to believe. The discovery began 2 weeks ago when security authorities received reports about the sudden disappearance of 4 people. The strange thing was that these individuals were wealthy, some were merchants, and others owned real estate, land, and livestock. Here, security officers noticed a mysterious secret. Where did these men go? Their cars were there, their families were waiting, and none of them had traveled. There was no trace of them, as if the earth had swallowed them up. Intensive investigations began, and information reached the police stating that a young man was the last person to meet the 4th victim before his disappearance. He was arrested, and during interrogation, he broke down, started talking, and shocked everyone. He said, "The man you are looking for is in my sister's house in the village of Sig, on Dallas Street. I helped my sister, her husband, and their partner bury him inside the house." Security forces, forensics, and the coroner immediately headed to the house and began digging. Oh, the horror. They found the body buried with concrete poured over it perfectly to prevent any odor from escaping. If not for this confession, they would have never reached it. The shock didn't stop there. They found the body dismembered and prepared to be moved elsewhere. When asked about his sister Kyra, he said he didn't know her whereabouts, as she, her husband, and their partner had fled after an influential person tipped them off about the case being uncovered. It turned out that Kyra used her beauty and tricks as bait to lure wealthy victims to her house. When the victim entered trustingly, the gang would ambush him, kill him, steal everything he owned, and bury him. The brother confirmed that there were other victims whose murders he did not participate in. The police set an ambush for Kyra's husband, and during a car chase, his car overturned and he died instantly. Following up on the search, they managed to arrest Kira in the coastal city of Annaba. Upon interrogation, she broke down in tears when she learned of her husband's death and confessed to the rest of the partners, among whom was her mother. The mother was arrested, and due to her old age, she couldn't withstand the interrogation, so she dropped a bombshell. Ask them about the 3 other bodies buried in that specific valley. Indeed, it turned out that 2 weeks prior, a shepherd was passing through that remote valley, and his guard dogs barked and dug into the ground because of a rotting smell, revealing dismembered human remains. After matching DNA samples with the families of the missing persons, it was confirmed that the bodies belonged to the 3 other victims lured by Kyra and her gang of 9 people. The case is still under investigation, and the prosecution expects to find other victims by digging through old missing person files. We move now to our main story of the night. The story begins with a man named Abu Fadil, who struggled and worked in Kuwait in the Jaha area at a desert site formerly known as Amgara Scrap. Abu Fadil worked in the used car spare parts business, and his trade flourished greatly during the early days of the Kuwaiti Renaissance. Abu Fadil stood out for a trait that made everyone love and trust him. He used to give a warranty of up to 2 or 3 months on used and electrical parts, which is very rare in this field. He was easygoing in his buying and selling and never got into disputes with customers, so he became one of the biggest scrap merchants. He married, had children, and his success continued until the year 1990, the year of the invasion of Kuwait. Fearing for his family and daughters, he decided to return to his country, Lebanon, with a bountiful fortune collected from his work. There, because he knew no other trade, he decided to open a garage for used spare parts, but he was shocked to find that this business was highly saturated there. With his intelligence and experience, he thought of distinguishing himself through a trade that was not common back then, recycling car batteries. He started buying old damaged batteries at very cheap prices from garages, collecting them in a large warehouse. He established a workshop and taught workers how to open the battery, clean the valuable lead plates, refill the battery water, and recharge it to return like new. He started selling them for only $5 with a warranty, so the idea was a roaring success, and the garage turned into a huge factory exporting to neighboring countries. Abu Fadil's children grew up, and his middle son, Shadi, a smart mechanical engineer, took over the management of the factory, while the father rested at home. In this factory, there was an Egyptian worker named Naji. Naji started with Abu Fadil from the very beginning as a simple worker, and Abu Fadil loved and trusted him deeply, constantly raising his salary out of loyalty to their long history together. When Abu Fadil's children grew up, they respected Naji because he was like an uncle who played with them in their childhood. However, things changed when Shadi took over the factory management. Naji began to feel jealous and resentful. He saw Shadi bringing in new engineers and managers and giving them high salaries, so Naji considered himself more deserving than them because he was one of the founders. He started speaking to Shadi in an arrogant tone and constantly demanded a raise, and Shadi would grant it out of respect for his father. One day, Shadi was under work pressure and looking grim, so Naji walked in threatening him. Either you raise my salary to be like the engineers, or I will leave the job. Naji thought the factory would stop without him. Here, Shadi lost his patience and said to him firmly and angrily, "This is our salary. If you like it, fine. If not, the door is wide enough for a camel. You have crossed the line too much while I remain silent out of respect for your age and my father. Go back to your work or submit your resignation." Naji swallowed his anger and went back to work, knowing he wouldn't find a salary like the one he was taking, but hatred completely filled his heart. Weeks later, new machines arrived at the factory to develop the production line, and a specialized engineer came to install them. Shadi and the engineer had to stay late at night in the factory to complete the work, while Naji was in his remote room by the gates. At 12 midnight, Naji believed Shadi was alone in the factory because he only saw his car, so he decided to take revenge. Meanwhile, Shadi excused himself from the engineer to go down to his car to get a pack of cigarettes. An hour passed, 2 hours, and 3 hours, and Shadi did not return. The engineer found it strange and called him repeatedly with no answer. He went down and found the car in its place, so he went to the guard, Naji, and asked him, "Have you seen Shadi?" Naji said in a cold tone, "No, I haven't seen him, and I didn't even know you two were here." Suspicion filled the engineer's heart, so he called Shadi's older brother Fadhil and told him about it. Fadhil and his younger brother arrived, searched the factory, and confronted Naji, but the father, Abu Fadhil, defended Naji strongly, saying to his sons, "It's wrong to wrong Naji. He is a lifelong companion and like a brother to me. Search well for Shadi. Maybe he fell asleep somewhere." The next day, they notified the police, and the K9 units and forensics arrived. Upon searching the guard Naji's room, a very strong and exaggerated smell of detergents and disinfectants filled the air. The room underwent a luminal scan, revealing wiped traces of blood, and upon matching it with the family, it turned out to be Shadi's blood. Naji denied it and cried, saying, "It's impossible I would do that." But the police dogs traced the blood trail to a neighboring wasteland next to the factory, and there they dug and found Shadi's body cut into 2 halves for easy carrying, which Naji had buried within those 3 hours. Abu Fadil was in a state of shock and refused to believe that Naji was the killer, continuing to defend him, until the definitive surprise came from a worker in a neighboring factory who told the police, "3 days before the crime, I saw Naji himself digging a deep hole in that wasteland for several hours. I found it strange and thought he was hiding a treasure, and now the body was found in that exact hole." Here, doubt dissipated, and it became clear that the crime was premeditated. When the noose tightened around Naji, he began to pretend to be insane and mentally disturbed. His lawyer presented stamped medical certificates from a mental asylum in Egypt, proving that he had been undergoing psychiatric treatment for years, aiming to escape the death penalty and be transferred to a medical facility. The father Abu Fadil's heart burned with rage after learning the truth and that Naji had dug the hole in advance. He decided not to let him escape, He boarded a plane and headed to Egypt, and to the exact same asylum. In the exact same way, he paid money and extracted a stamped and certified medical report from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in his own name, proving that he suffered from mental and psychological illnesses. Abu Fadil returned to the court in Lebanon and presented his fake medical report to the judge, saying, "Look, Your Honor, this is a report proving that I am insane. I brought it with my money to prove to you that the killer Naji's report can also be bought with money and has no truth to it." At this point, the court dismissed Naji's psychiatric report, and he was tried as a person in full possession of his mental faculties. A death sentence by hanging was issued against him as retribution for what his hands had committed of treachery and betrayal of trust. Wow, what an insane turn of events. Talk about true poetic justice. If you guys found this story as wild as I did, make sure to smash that like button right now. Don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on those notifications so you never miss another crazy story. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you think justice was truly served? Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out. But with great wealth comes great danger. His father constantly pulled him aside, giving him the same heavy warning. "Son, be careful. Watch out for the bad crowd at school and the hustlers in the neighborhood. Choose your friends with extreme care. A bad companion is not just a distraction, they are a roadblock to your success. They will drag you down and they will destroy you. Don't just pick people randomly." But Syed, with the classic arrogance of youth, would always brush it off. "Don't worry, Dad. I know what I'm doing. My friends are good guys." His father looked at them and saw right through them. He knew they were bad news, looking for trouble and chaos. He begged him, "Son, please, do this so you can reach your goals. Peer pressure is real. Do not tell me you won't be affected. You will be." Time passed, graduation arrived, and Syed nailed it with high scores. He immediately applied to the police officer academy. He smashed the physical tests, passed the interviews, and then the acceptance letter arrived. It was the greatest, happiest moment of his life. He was officially on the path to becoming an officer. But as the saying goes, the wind blows counter to what the ships desire. Said completely forgot his father's warning. Overjoyed, the family celebrated, and Said decided to throw a massive party for his friends. Dinner at a restaurant, a late-night hangout, a movie, all on his tab. They went out, they laughed, they celebrated, and that's when his friends turned on the pressure. They handed him alcohol. "Come on, man, you're a grown man now, you're going to be an officer. Look around, guys younger than you are drinking and living it up. Just try it." Said gave in. "Why not? Let me just try it." He drank. He got heavily intoxicated. After the party, Said got behind the wheel of his car, completely wasted. On his way home, he lost control and smashed violently into a utility pole. The crash caused massive destruction to public property and crushed several parked cars underneath the falling pole. The sirens wailed. The ambulance rushed him to the hospital. The police ran the tests, and the truth was out. He was driving under the influence and destroying government property. A massive criminal case was filed against him. When the military academy got word of this, it was over. In almost every country, an officer cadet committing a crime means immediate expulsion, and that's exactly what happened. In the blink of an eye, all his dreams, his future, his family's pride shattered, all because he listened to a few words from bad friends. Syed was completely broken. He became a ghost, locking himself in his room for months, drowning in deep depression, refusing to see anyone. His family tried to comfort him. "Syed, life goes on. Your destiny is in God's hands. Become an engineer, get your master's, get a PhD. Let this mistake be your fuel to start over." But talk is cheap. It's easy to give advice when you aren't the one bleeding. Said lost all ambition. He wasted a year, then 2, doing absolutely nothing. Eventually, reality hit. He had to work. But in this day and age, even university graduates struggle, let alone someone with just a high school diploma and a criminal record. He took miserable, low-paying jobs, working in garages, doing heavy labor. He went from dreaming of a military uniform to being a low-wage worker. He wanted to escape, but he had no money. He couldn't ask his father, who was still deeply disappointed. Every single day he cursed his friends. They are the root of this plague. They destroyed me. Then came Fathia. Fathia lived in the same neighborhood. She was stunningly beautiful, but she was a manipulator, a street-smart, dangerous girl who hopped from one guy to the next. Syed knew her reputation, so he never paid her any attention. But one day she looked at him, smiled, and gave him this look of intense admiration. Syed went home, his heart racing. It was the first time he looked at her through the lens of romance. The next day, she was practically waiting for him. They exchanged numbers, and a passionate relationship sparked. For Syed, this love was a drug. It made him forget his depression and his ruined life. He became utterly obsessed with her, buying her gifts, spending every penny he had. His father noticed and stepped in again. "Son, I warned you about bad friends. Now I am warning you about a bad woman." This is the ultimate catastrophe. A woman like her won't just get you into trouble, she will end you. "Stay away!" Syed snapped back, "Dad, I love her." His father made him promise to drop her, but Syed lied and kept seeing her in secret. The shocker? Syed's entire paycheck was going to Fathia. She was a financial vampire, draining him completely, and he couldn't say no. Seeing how easy he was to control, she started pressuring him. "We need to make this official. Let's get married." Syed said, "I don't have the money to build a life yet." She replied, "So what? We'll live in your dad's villa. Your family is rich. They can support us." Syed explained his family's strict principles, but she played her final card. "Look, I have tons of suitors knocking on my door. If you aren't man enough to step up, I'll marry someone else." Terrified of losing her, Syed told his dad he was marrying Fathia. The news hit his father like a lightning bolt. "Out of all the women in the world, you pick her? A girl known for drama, whose voice fills the streets?" His father gave him an ultimatum. "If you marry her, you are no longer my son. You are banned from this house." Syed walked out. He married her. Fathia's family couldn't believe their luck. They saw Syed as a walking ATM. They threw a cheap neighborhood wedding. Syed's parents were left in tears, heartbroken by their son's ultimate betrayal. 3 months passed. Syed was living with Fathia's family, and they quickly grew tired of him. His low-wage job wasn't bringing in the big bucks they expected. So, they introduced him to one of their relatives, a hardened criminal with a long rap sheet. They told Syed, "We will teach you a real trade." They taught him how to hotwire and steal motorcycles to sell them on the black market. The illegal cash started flowing. But blood money never lasts. One night, Syed was trying to steal a motorcycle belonging to a young man named Kamal, but Kamal recognized Syed. A violent fist fight broke out. Panic set in. Syed pulled out a knife he always carried for protection. He flashed it to scare Kamal, but Kamal charged at him. In the chaos, Syed plunged the knife straight into Kamal's neck. Kamal fell to the ground, bleeding profusely, and died on the spot. Terrified of the death penalty, Syed grabbed Fathia and fled. They smuggled themselves across the border into Algeria, and from there they escaped into war-torn Libya, hiding out in a rented apartment for 3 years. Life in Libya was a living hell. Syed had 2 kids now, working grueling, back-breaking jobs just to feed Fathia and her children. Then a bizarre twist of fate occurred. The wall of Syed's rented apartment was a shared wall with a high-end jewelry store next door. A sinister plan formed in his mind. Every single night after the shop closed, Syed would quietly scrape away layers of the wall, bit by bit, making sure not to make a sound. After weeks of scraping, the wall became paper thin. Encouraged and pushed by Fathia, he waited for the shop's closing day to strike. Fathia told him, "Listen, once you grab the gold, we pack everything and fly straight back to Tunisia." Syed was confused. "Tunisia? They'll arrest me for the murder?" Fathia smiled like a lawyer from hell. "Think about it. If you turn yourself in, they'll reduce your sentence because you confessed. You tell them it was self-defense, you'll get 5 to 7 years max, but the millions in gold and cash, I will keep them safe for us. If we run anywhere else, they'll extradite you to Libya, and we lose the money. In Tunisia, the government won't hand its own citizen over to a foreign country." Syed thought she was a genius. He agreed. Midnight came. He smashed through the brittle wall, crawled inside, and stole 90 million Tunisian millimes in cash, plus massive amounts of gold, over 100 million total value. They packed the bags, drove like maniacs to the border, and crossed back into Tunisia. Fadia hid the treasure safely. Syed went straight to the police in Tunis and surrendered, claiming Kamal's death was an accident in self-defense. Fathia hired a top lawyer, but justice is blind. He was convicted of robbery and manslaughter and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Syed sat in his cell, but he wasn't completely miserable. He was doing the math. I'll do my 10 years, come out, and I'll have 100 million waiting for me. I'll start a company, a factory, and live like a king. But during his very first year in prison, Fathia filed for a default divorce, claiming she couldn't stay with a convict. She won the divorce, took every single penny of the stolen millions and the gold, and married her former lover. They spent the money living a life of luxury, while Syed was left rotting in a cell with absolutely nothing. And here is the final brutal twist. The Libyan authorities have already requested Syed's extradition. The moment his 10-year sentence ends in Tunisia, he will not walk free. He will be handcuffed and shipped straight back to Libya to face trial for the jewelry store heist. Syed lost his family, his career, his freedom, and his entire life. This is the tragic end of anyone who turns their back on their parents' wisdom, defies God, and chases easy haram money. Life hits everyone with disasters, but the secret is to stand firm. The blow that doesn't kill you makes you stronger. If you can survive the first storm with patience and faith, a bright future awaits you. But if you collapse and take the dark path, this is how it ends. Stay safe, everyone. Until next time, goodbye.